We're on.
We're on. Are we back? Oh,
Should we play with people and pretend like we're frozen?
That was an interesting period of time. Very nice. Hi, guys.
yeah,
How
no,
are you?
well, we're back on the Lunchbox, a Friday pre-weekend edition, and obviously the computer wanted to take a day off for the Jewish holiday early. So
Yes.
these things
My
happen.
Jewish computer.
His computer is named Moish,
Exactly. It's Saul Rosenstein.
but it may as well be changed to Mush after the
Um,
last couple of days.
So now I don't know what I'm supposed to be
You were talking wine
streaming
and beer
here
and
on the-
sangria.
Yeah, here we go.
That-
No, I'm going to start
How bad was that
rebooting
picture of
and
sangria? I mean, what was the
resharing. Hold
price?
on a second. I'm copying the link.
And
I'm
let
getting
people-
it back onto Let's Eat South Florida. Bear with us. If you
We're
there were
here.
still 5 people watching.
You were
when we're
watching.
completely
I love
frozen,
you all
which
watching
means
the Frozen us. How entertaining was that? Was it
that's-
Us frozen is fascinating. It
we
really
were
is.
frozen like a Gabilla's Knish at the Costco wholesale place, but on Monday, and now it's Friday afternoon.
You're ready
so
for
he's
him to
right
go.
around that rotten fish
Yeah.
benchmark. But him and my mom are getting along swimmingly, and my mom enjoys having a new company and stimulus, and she's sick of seeing me every day. That's for sure. So that was good, and but Eric set up shop and he did his little office meetings and Zoom, and yeah, it's pretty shameless. But we're going to be going to Shenanigans for a final meal. He wanted seafood. Don't have time to get up to even keel, but luckily we do. Next Wednesday we'll be doing our monthly remote at Even Keel on Wednesday the 28th. Looking forward to catching up with Brad and company. Brad has just come back from a trip of a lifetime to Israel, and he just said he's always been fascinated by the history and everything. So we'll get a chat with him, and I don't know if he's going to have any kind of newfangled Israeli dishes on the menu. Some maybe
Have hummus
fish
in
with.
every dish.
Well, I don't think he's going to do hummus, but he might do a fish with a Israeli couscous or something like that. Israeli salad might be good, but
Shawarma. Maybe they'll have a
yeah,
shawarma.
we could do a shawarma. We'll see. I'm sure he'll come up with something. But this afternoon, me and Eric, we're just going to get a nice fresh fish sandwich, mahi or a fish of the day. Friends at Shenanigans, Pat Utter. I was in there earlier in the week with some of the chicken wings, and I need some fish in my system. So that's always the place to go for good fresh
Well, they
fish.
get different fish there, right? Like on the Northwest, you're not getting dolphin and tuna and.
Oh, up there where Eric lives, yeah, it's either the Washington, salmon, the actual fresh river salmon, or a lot of the halibut, Alaskan halibut coming down for that. Yeah, so they get little different versions of stuff. So, but we'll get a little bit of mahi here and send him on his way. I'll pack him a ham sandwich and put him on the tri-rail, and then go pick up my daughter. So anyway, hey, let's get back to the price of wine because we got cut off before. And you were saying it should be, because there was a complaint or, just a general question put forth on the Let's Eat group about, how come when, a bottle of wine you could pick up at Publix for $10, you go to a restaurant, it's 40. And I was like, that's how the restaurant makes its profit, is a lot of time on the coffee, the desserts, and the drinks and the wine. Defo, you were saying it should be about
my restaurant experience, I mean, this goes back a long way when I was waiting tables at various restaurants, but the general formula was that whatever the restaurateur paid for the wine, however he was buying it, he was going to double the price of the bottle.
Yep.
And that's what it was going to be. Now, I'm not offended by high prices unless they're particularly obnoxious, where you have a bottle of something very common, like what would be a $12 bottle of Kendall Jackson. And I saw it in a casino restaurant listed at $65 for the bottle. $65 for the bottle. Now, they were only charging at the bar, even if you were paying, they were charging like $9 for a glass. So you would have had the same equivalent if you had just walked out of the restaurant and you wanted to drink Kendall Jackson. You could have walked to the bar nearby, gotten a couple of glasses for 18, and you would have saved yourself $22 on the price of the bottle overall. That's outrageous. I don't know. What do you think? I mean, if they're getting it at a great price and it's not outrageous, that's one thing. But I always thought it was 2 times whatever the restaurateur paid. That was going to be the charge.
Here's the formula, and I heard it from a wine expert who was general manager of a really good restaurant a while back. But basically, the lower price the wine, the higher the markup. But the markup should never be above 3 times X, 3 times what the retail price with the wholesale. So basically, if you have a $10 bottle of wine, the markup at the restaurant, it should be like sold for $28 or maybe 30, but if it's over $30 for a $10 bottle of wine, don't order it, and tell them specifically saying you're marking up your wine too much. Now, and it's supposed to come back slow all the way down to even maybe 1.5x for the most expensive bottles of wine, whereby any bottle of wine that maybe wholesales for 120, then they shouldn't be doing the 2 times. It should be like 1.5 or 1.7, so goes for 180 or to 200. And I think that's fair. And anytime that, because you're making more real money if it's a more expensive bottle of wine and you're doing 3 times X, and there are places that did that and do that in hotels in South Beach, and that I find offensive and outrageous. And I specifically don't order wine, and I tell them that you're basically just trying to fleece the customers, because if you get a $40 bottle of wine and they charge $150 for it, and I've seen this, that's rapacious. It's just too much. And the $40
That's
wine,
when you order a vodka and something.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it should be, again, 2.5. So 40, you can get $100 for a $40 bottle of wine. That's not completely outrageous, but our friends at, Jack Studiali, that's why I love them, because they price wine to sell. I mean, they
I was
get
gonna say,
wines in there that they're paying like, $25 wholesale that they're, putting on the menu for 60. Again, it's just barely over double. And then, on the half price wine night, they're
the same
selling it for
price.
33. It's basically they're not making any profit on it when you figure out the glassware and the labor and the opening it and all that. So, but it's like everything else. Communicate with the place. If you find that it's too expensive and you think that they're charging too much for wine, tell them, hey, I would have come in here and I'd order 2 bottles of wine with a group for a celebration, but now that you're charging so much, I'm going to order 0 wine, and I'm only going to order one of your cheapest beers. And
Now, who are you telling that to? The server? Because they
not
take
the
the brunt
server.
of the abuse. So you're calling the owner or manager over. You're
That
telling them that
is
their wine
that
prices
is not a
are too
calling
slight.
it over. That's an on the way out
Oh, on the
discussion.
way out.
You just don't order the wine. And then on the way out after your meal, you just see whoever is in charge, whether it's a manager or a proprietor, and say, hey, had a really nice meal. I just want to let you know I really enjoy wine, but the prices you charge for it, I couldn't order it. It just was too much for my budget, and I just know what you pay for it. I know what I pay for it. And
As a reviewer, were you inclined to call people out
mention
when the
this?
wines were overpriced?
Yeah.
yeah. So the on the follow-up interviews, because I never said anything when I was there about who I was and my impressions. I
They
was
all
always
knew,
on.
though. I mean, we see it every time we walk into a place. It's like all of a sudden they're literally just lined up with massive doses of respect, and
That's now, because I don't even hide it anymore. I used to try to be a little bit more subtle.
and they know to bring a lot of food, which is
Yes,
also
they
good.
know to
That's
bring a lot of food.
100%
But
right.
no, back then, when on my follow-up phone calls, when I would get in touch with the place, I would definitely make notes about their. I think wine and beverage programs are a very key component of any good meal in any restaurant, and not just decent restaurants, even your neighborhood place. You want to be able to have a nice little carafe of wine at your little neighborhood Italian joint, and again, I'm willing to pay a certain price. Last night, we had a nice pitcher of sangria. It was $33. El Cheapo was paying,
How
so
many
I thought it was.
glasses? Was it a small pitcher, enough for
No,
4 glasses?
it's like in a
Yeah.
carafe, and they were charging
Okay.
like $11.95
All
per
right, so that's
glass.
not bad. Yeah.
So basically, it was charging 3 glasses worth, and we each got more. We each got 2 full glasses, so it
All right,
made
it was a
it
deal.
was it was the math worked out
I tell you
accordingly.
what I like when I look at a wine list, and sometimes it's always weird too when they don't bring a wine list, or it's on the back of like a napkin or something. They're never very encouraging. But I do like to see a lot of selections in a reasonable price range. Like let's say you're talking, like in my case here, you're talking Chardonnays. There should be something like a few choices between, say, 35 and $60.
Right.
Mhm.
At least a few different choices that would be appealing, and that's always good, because I can deal with being a wine being a little bit overpriced if at least you had a few selections to choose from there. And you weren't
Yeah,
just
no.
stuck paying a rip-off price for a bottle of wine you didn't really care for.
Now I know for you usually order the Chardonnay, and usually in the price range where you ask for a straw to come with it, but that's no. I'm taking shots at Defo unfairly. He has a very good palate when it comes to wine. It's just he's on the white side of the street.
He likes Chardonnay.
And again, it's for medical reasons, and I understand.
Not
I'm
really
now,
medical, but just
not
it's just good. It's physical.
Oh, I thought
guess.
you said that your body.
I don't handle red wine as well as white, obviously.
I
But,
put that in the condition of medical. Like
I
you
don't know
get
if it was a
headaches or
medical
you get
condition,
stomach.
though. Yeah, it
Okay,
just
well,
doesn't.
for
doesn't
me,
work
it
for
is like I have
Yeah.
this reflux condition now, and I love red wine, but it's one of those things now. I've really had to cut back, and even last night after having the red sangria, I was feeling it when I went to bed, and I've got to
And it's a
kind of.
horrible feeling too. It
It's a
really
bad
is.
thing, and
Yeah.
I take the antacids and all that. But uh, the bottom line is, I agree. And one of the things I did assess a restaurant on its wine list is, do they have a good fair amount of representative wines at different price points? And you should have a decent bottle of wine available for 40 to 50 bucks. And too many of these high end or snooty places, they don't have any good wines that are priced under $100, and that's
Yeah.
just not fair, because there's so many. When you go to a wine shop, when you go to a place like Total Wine or Primo Liquors, our friends at Primo, you could find a lot of great wine. I mean, really drinkable, delicious wines that retail for $18 to $25. So if they're retailing at 18 to 25, they should be on a wine list at in that $50,
At
40 to
50.
$50 range. So and yet I found a lot of restaurants, particularly at the hotel resorts, they would
Oh,
start
good.
those kind of wines at, $85, $90. And again, that's just
You
you're
don't like to
ripping off the
slap an
customer.
extra stick right away on the check. I mean,
Yeah.
for some reason, and you're thinking you're going to be ordering another bottle, especially if I'm with the Mustang. There's a second bottle coming, possibly even a third. So now, if you're looking at an $80 bottle of wine, I mean, you're talking about $240 added to the check, which gets a little prohibitive there.
Yeah,
when you're dining out.
no. So again, I'm of the opinion of there comes a threshold where I just say, you know what, I'm not going to be ordering wine. And I do the same thing at certain bars or casinos, actually, with the drink prices. Some of them, they charging $10 or $11 for a drink. And when you're at a casino, like, make it $7 so that when the waitress comes, you just give her a 10, and like every drink costs $10, or a beer, make them $4, you give her a 5, and that'll encourage people to keep going. And as opposed to, if you're going to make the beer prices $8 or $9, as some places do, then I'm going to order zero. And I think there's less profit for a house that when you order like zero beers at $10, as opposed to ordering 4 beers at $5, something
Yep.
like that. That's basic
Yep.
math. So don't get greedy. And if you do get greedy, I'm going to just shut my wallet and say, no, thank you.
It's always funny too. I mean, do you ever, incur judgmental servers
Oh,
where
God.
they're making like,
Oh.
you order the cheapest bottle of wine on the menu,
Oh,
and
my
they
God.
immediately make a Mayo type face, and
They don't even hide it.
They go,
Yes.
yeah, and the guy goes, yeah, that's an excellent choice. She's gonna love that.
No.
Kind of like
Yeah.
bottle shame you, I guess. It would be.
It's bottle shaming. I love it. Yes,
Yeah.
that's true. Yes, it has happened to me on a review when I went to this place that I absolutely hated. That place, Alter in Miami, that had all this critical praise, and they had one of these overpriced wine lists of all these frou-frou wines, where the cheapest one was like $105, and they didn't have anything that I really liked. It was a lot of like French and Alsatian white wines and things like that, and I kind of like reds, but all their reds were really overpriced, like in the 200 to 300 range.
Wow.
So I found like this the Zinfandel, which is a fruity wine, not red Zinfandel, the stuff
Not a
of
big
the
fan,
1970s, but actual Zinfandel grape, which is great. And but it was priced at like $100, and
Wow.
the person I was with that night, my buddy, he was a chef, he said, when I said that wine, the guy looked at him and made a face. And I was like, well, I said, I didn't see it because he was facing him. But it's like, then why do you have that wine on your wine list?
That's
There
right,
it
but
is.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. You have it. That's why I
Yeah.
always ask, because I don't want that face. So I always feel
Right.
like if you ask, what do you recommend? Because then it takes it away from them. If they give you the recommendations, if you go off their list, look, I asked you. I don't really give a damn what you have to say, but I at least asked you, and I'm going my own way. When you don't ask, then I guess if they feel like sort of perturbed that you didn't ask their expertise.
Right.
So I don't know.
Well, there are some really great sommeliers out there. And, wine is the one thing that just intimidates the heck out of people when you go to a restaurant. It is the most intimidating, off-putting purpose because it is a different world and it has all these terms and you can definitely feel like an outsider. And the best sommeliers will break that barrier down and just talk to you and say, what do you like? What do you drink at home? And they'll find something, they'll feel you out in terms of what your particular taste and palate and price range is, and they'll make a good recommendation. And that's why guy at the old 32 East, a restaurant that used to be up in Delray Beach, but John Bates was the GM who ran their wine program, and he was fantastic. He was the best at just talking to you, figuring out what you liked, and he would bring you a wine that would always make you happy, and it was at the price point that you were comfortable with, and that's good wine service. It's hard to come by at a lot of restaurants these days because they don't have their own individual somms. But anyway, that's me. I'm the wine.
Oh, what about the
snob.
house wine? Are you ever inclined to order the house wine?
Only when it comes in a wicker
Mustang will ask
basket.
what it is. Yeah, she'll ask what the house wine is.
In Italy,
and,
Italian.
It
Italy,
usually
Italian.
is like a clown type of wine. Where
Italian places, the wine.
be the
Italian
last place
places have good house wine. It comes the Chianti in the wicker basket or in a carafe, and
Or
it's
if you're
the
in
Valpolicella.
Europe.
Yeah.
How about one of those little leather pouches that you used to wear over your shoulder?
Yeah, and it's
People
squirted
were
in
drinking
like
a lot
I do
of
with the
Iago
mustard.
sangria. Yeah,
I might get one of those sacks and just fill it with mustard for the next time I have a corned beef sandwich at Grampa's. All right, that's going to do it for this week. It was a long one. It was a good one. Started with burgers.
You did great this week.
Gilbert.
With the burgers, that was
That's good
fantastic.
stuff.
And then
Deli.
Grandpa's great place yesterday.
And again, thanks to Eric for picking up the tab last night. And thanks to everybody for tuning in and bearing with us.
Tova.
Happy New Year, Lishna Tova. May everybody be inscribed and sealed in the book of life. We'll see you again on the Lunchbox on Tuesday afternoon. For Jeff Defo Tafaris, Mike Lubie Lubitz, Mike Moderation Mayo saying
2 glasses of Sutter Home, please.
That's it. Happy
As
New
we
Year.
exit.
And enjoy every sandwich.